Hey everyone, and welcome. Today we're going to dive into some really powerful spiritual principles, the kind that can completely transform your mindset about prosperity. If you've ever felt that little bit of a conflict between your faith and having wealth, well, this session is going to offer a whole new perspective. All right, let's jump right in.
So I want to start with this question right from Scripture, because how you answer this, it really sets the stage for everything else. Seriously, think about it. Is abundance something you have to struggle against God's will for, or is it a gift He is absolutely delighted to give you? Let's explore that.
Okay, now this is a bold statement, I know, and it's really designed to make us think. It just completely challenges that old, tired idea that to be pious, you have to be poor. The argument from the source is simple. Since God is wholeness, perfection, and abundance, how could God possibly know or be a part of its total opposite, which is lack?
So, here's the crucial point, the real light bulb moment. Prosperity isn't some selfish thing you chase after. In this view, it's actually a divine expression. When we are healthy, when we're joyful, when we're financially free, we are literally allowing the nature of God to be seen through us. Lack, well, that's a state that's just completely unlike God's nature.
This brings us to the absolute core of this whole idea. The reason so many of us struggle is that we're focusing on the wrong side of reality. We're constantly trying to fix the result instead of going straight to the source.
I love this metaphor. Imagine reality is a string with two ends. One end is the cause, the source of absolutely everything. The other end is the effect, the circumstances we see all around us. Most people spend their entire lives pulling and struggling and yanking on the effect end, wondering why nothing ever changes.
So, let's break this down. On the left, you've got the manifest end. That's the world of effects, your salary, your bills, your circumstances. It's what you can see. But the real power, is over on the right. In the unmanifest end, this is the cause. It's your consciousness. It's God's formless creative substance. This is where all true change really begins.
So, if our consciousness is the cause, what does that actually mean for us? It means the power to change everything, and I mean everything, is already inside of you. What an incredibly empowering shift in perspective that is. Now listen, this isn't meant to be some heavy burden. It's a declaration of your freedom. It moves you out of that victim mindset, where you're at the mercy of the economy or your boss, and puts you firmly in the driver's seat. Your mind, your consciousness, is literally the control panel for your financial life. And this just nails the point. Poverty isn't a real thing in God's kingdom. There is no lack in that divine substance. Poverty is just a human idea, an idea of lack that we've allowed to run the show in our minds. And the beautiful thing about an idea? It can be replaced with a new one. Here's a super practical example of how we do this every day. When we say, "I can't afford it," we think we're just making a factual statement. But we're not saying anything about God's infinite supply. What we're actually doing is building a wall in our own consciousness and literally shutting the door on the good that's trying to flow to us. So if we've been unknowingly closing the door all this time, how in the world do we open it? Okay, let's get into the practical steps, the things you can do to activate these principles in your own life, starting right now. The Bible uses this beautiful phrase, the cattle on 1,000 hills, to symbolize all of God's abundance: the money, the homes, the jobs, the health, everything. Now, the key takeaway here is that these gifts have already been given. They are already ours. But, and this is a big but, they only become ours in our actual experience when we consciously recognize them, accept them, and, as the scripture says, slay and eat. We have to claim them. This is the million-dollar question, isn't it? How do we stop pulling on the effect and start operating from the cause? How do we bridge that gap between knowing this stuff in our heads and actually living it out? Well, here's a simple but incredibly profound practice, and it uses a reminder that's probably already in your wallet. First, every single time you handle money, receiving it or paying with it, just notice the symbol. Then, second, consciously and quietly affirm the phrase, "In God we trust." This tiny act connects you directly with the true source of all supply. It shifts your mindset off of your own shoulders and places your faith squarely in God's infinite substance. All right, as we start to wrap up, let's bring all of this together. This isn't about wishful thinking, okay? It's about claiming a spiritual inheritance that has already been given to you. It's about aligning your mind with the truth of God's limitless abundance.
And the tool we use to do this is faith. But look at this definition. Faith isn't just blind hope. It is the substance of things hoped for.
It is the evidence of a reality you can't see yet. Faith is the faculty, the spiritual sense that allows us to perceive and bring into our lives the good that already exists in that unmanifest realm.
So here's the call to action. It's a call to be spiritually courageous. It's a challenge to move beyond just reading these words and to start living them. Dare to step out on these promises. Dare to truly acknowledge God and only God as the source of every good thing in your life.
So let's end by grounding these ideas right in our hearts. I invite you to make this truth your own. Just allow that feeling of divine inheritance to settle within you as you affirm, "The cattle on 1,000 hills are mine."
I am free. I am rich. I am powerful.
And finally, let's declare this together. I am one with God and everything is mine to use. I claim my highest good now and nothing can keep it from me. Just think for a moment, what could change if you really held on to that single truth? Thank you so much for joining me.